Time now is 4 o'clock. We'll call this meeting into order. Everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Remind everyone, if they have a cell phone, if they could please turn it to mute or silent so it doesn't interrupt during the meeting. Patty, you take the roll call, please.
Gary.
Here.
Tim.
Here.
Ray.
Here.
Don. Todd.
Here. Good afternoon. Welcome guests and visitors and media. I do want to remind everyone, if there is an item on the agenda that you want to, if there's a non-item on the agenda, excuse me, that you want to speak at, there's a sign-in sheet in the back of the room underneath the light switch. And at the end of the meeting, we'll have the open comment portion. Each individual will be allowed 3 minutes. During that time, it'll be a comment portion by the public, and the commission will not be able to comment back or take any action. That being stated, is there any financial conflicts of interest on today's agenda from any of the commissioners?
No.
How about any non-financial conflicts of interest? Reason must be stated for abstaining.
No. Nope.
Okay. Moving on, any additions or changes for today's agenda? I do have one addition. We're going to add the recently new imposed load limits on Fleegs Bridge. We're going to have that on there as an FYI for the commissioners to hear from, I believe, from Clark's Engineering, and Brian will be here as well. Any other additions or changes to the agenda for today?
On the FYI side, I'd also like to just briefly speak about the upcoming mass casualty drill and the training that was held last night.
And you said that some training last night. What was?
It was at Fire Station 2 for mass casualty and coroner. And
That was last night?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was the 20th. Yeah, it was last night.
Okay. Any other additions or changes to today's agenda? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Ray, Deb, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Has everyone had a chance to review the August 7th commission meeting minutes? Since I was not in attendance, I will not be able to vote on the minutes.
I have just at the very end where there was a motion about having a meeting. That was as of action in the executive session, so that should move up ahead instead of ahead of the public comment. It's just where it's placed on the minutes.
Does that?
That should have been, it's on, there's 18290 Charlie, and we had 18289, but that's what came out at me.
Does the order in regards to how it is matter in regards, as long as, is everything accurate in the minutes in regards to?
I thought it was just a timely, put it on there.
As long as it's in the minutes.
Okay. Then I don't have any other thing.
Any other comments or corrections to the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda. Excuse me, the minutes.
We have a motion to approve. Ray, is that was a second before I cut you off?
Yep.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. First item of business today is claims. Has everyone had a chance to review the claims today? And are there any questions in regards to the claims?
No, I don't believe I have any questions. I'll review them.
Any questions on the claims? Hearing none, I entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the claims as submitted.
A motion, is there a second?
Second that.
Ray, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is some unanticipated revenue for the ambulance department. Pat, do you want to just kind of let us know a little bit what this is? I'm assuming it's some sort of an insurance claim.
And they just received some revenue for ambulance repair.
Okay.
They could go back into the budget.
Thank you. Can you make sure you please mute your phones, please, during the meeting? Thank you. Any other questions in regards to the unanticipated revenue? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve the unanticipated revenue.
Second.
There's a motion. We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. And as we review the items in the consent agenda, is there anything that we need to pull out for discussion? If there is not,
I would just comment that it's been a bit of a busy period for the ambulance department, and that's reflected in their report.
I think if we talk to Steve today, I think it was even busier this past weekend for not
Yeah.
only ambulance, but
Yeah.
for all emergency management and law
Absolutely.
enforcement, so. Any items to be pulled from the consent agenda? If not, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
If second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda, we are actually right on time, is to vacate a section line along Utica Township, in Utica Township, applicants Brett Hatchesky. Patty, want to kind of enlighten us a little bit?
Do you know anything about that, Pat?
You should have the petition in front of you,
Yeah.
We do have the petition.
and you should, isn't Brett asked to be here? Because he's presenting the petition that would, did the petition fill out all the requirements and you did?
Rob, can
So
you?
from your standpoint, the petition met the,
Right, was it in an organized or unorganized township, do we know?
It's
It's
in unorganized.
it's an unorganized township, so they had to get those X numbers?
That 1%,
Okay.
He got
and they got that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think it looked fine.
Yep.
The petition looked correct. I didn't see
Yep.
anything besides, that was the only question I had, I didn't check if
Okay.
it was organized.
So it met
Otherwise,
the
it's in
statute?
compliance.
Okay, I agree too.
So it's a section line township road between section 9 and 16. So
Now, the section line is defined quite clearly, isn't it? Is it what, you're going to start there on what I call Smoke Road? Would be the western boundary?
Yeah, I get it, yeah.
What is that avenue?
Should be 434.
Okay, and what's your eastern boundary? From what I thought, it would be like 433, or that section line.
It's at 9 and 16.
Because it's not going to go quite as far as where
Well, if
it's going to go
9 and 16,
underneath
it's
Will
436 and
Agnes's,
437, is it not?
but not quite to Don Kettering's place.
No, this is not.
It says it's on the section line running between section 9.
You're right, it should be 436, not 434, like I just stated.
Yeah, 436 and 437, I believe.
That's what I think too.
And
It's
that's,
a 1
it's a
mile.
mile, is it an entire
Yep.
mile?
Yep,
No, it's the west 1,043 feet.
okay, good.
66 feet in width.
Okay,
So it's about a half a mile.
so
We have
it
to
is
worry about any
defined.
type of utility easements on this like we did before.
I don't, Pat maybe the one that can answer that a little bit.
Okay,
And I don't know if that's going to be a concern. And you know, in the past, when we've done it, we put those utility easements in.
yep, utility easements will always have dominance. Even if you vacate it, utility easements can still have dominance.
Well, if you recall, when we vacated part of the section line on the top of Smoke Road, we made sure that there was still a utility easement in place. I want to make,
We put one in place.
we put one in place.
Okay.
Because I drafted one and then everybody signed it.
I just want to make sure we maintain access for utilities in regards to this vacating the section line if need be.
Because they're asking for the entire right-of-way here, the entire 66 feet in width of section line, township road.
Yep.
So if they've done that.
Their intent is surface, but utilities, I agree, if we need to do that, then we should do that to clarify that there won't be a discussion later. The utility easement stay in place or draw up a document.
You can lose them, you can get them back, but then you're into that eminent domain thing.
Yeah.
That, you know what I mean? You create a risk.
So do you want to do what you did on Smoke Road?
Yeah, I think so. I say let's table it and I'll draft the same document we did before. I think I left it at 15 feet over that section line, 7.5 on each side, is what I think I did for utilities only through there. And then I think you'd feel about it.
Do we know what the intent of this vacate is?
They're going to develop the back lots, and so they want to assure that there won't be a road going down their back lots, the road currently existing in the front lots.
Does he own the land on both sides?
Yep. And they're going to start developing, in fact, Hatchesky has now developed the one house, which is on the north side of the road, and can they vacate that section line to assure that a road doesn't get put in place up there? That's their intent.
And then, Ted, are they turning it into a PUD? Are they?
It's already a PUD.
So then do we need to worry about utilities then?
I think in the easement you do, yep,
Okay.
in the right of way. If we want to assure that the easements, or that the utilities are assured they have easement, we probably better write it down, just to make sure.
Now, as I look through the petition of the signatures on here, I do see a couple of duplications. Do we will exceed the number of signatures required on this petition? I think a couple times I see Jim Tramp in there twice. So I know there's plenty of signatures, like
Yeah.
15 pages of signatures. So
And remember, since it's an unorganized township, the signatures can come from anybody in Yankton County.
I just want to make sure with the duplication, we just exceed the 1%.
I appreciate it. So you understand part of their process and their thought process on that, as far as that back section line would be in their backyard. So it's still a property line. It will always be a property line, but they wanted to vacate the section access.
So Rob, you think we can have this on the September 4th agenda? Is that too soon, or is it
Probably just too soon. Just talk with the 3-day weekend and then just getting everybody to sign and making sure.
So
Well, it's really just, it should be Hatchesky, right?
No, it's going to be Tramp and Eisness. I think, because I think Eisness owns everything on the north end, and Tramp, and then perhaps Hatchesky. The Tramp owns all the rest. So Hatchesky, Tramp, and then Eisness would be the 3 owners.
So Todd, I would probably say the next one, they'll have a signature.
And if it can be done we can put it for the second meeting in September, but if it does get done sooner, we can put it on the September 4th meeting. So as I look at the map, with it being an east-west section line, just to make sure on planning side,
Yep.
easements are probably still something we want to put in place for utilities, correct?
Right.
And it's only
And
like
it's 1,000 feet on the west half of that section. 1,000, how many feet by description?
1343.
Yeah,
1343. So that's what they're asking to vacate. So it isn't the entire mile, obviously.
Yeah.
It's just what Tramp owns, or the development has.
Okay.
There's no terrain. I definitely agree with Todd's utilities. That can go in anywhere, but there's no terrain in there to do any roads. And besides, we've got a road right to the north and a road right to the south. So
Is there really a road to the, on the west? Because it looks like it doesn't go all the way through.
it runs
436
into.
Avenue stops about a quarter of a mile from,
That would be Smoke Road.
Yep. So it goes down to the quarry. And Smoke Road has that gap in between them because of the terrain.
okay. So really, it's over that, to that edge, to that corner. This one.
Can I get a motion to table to no later than September, what? Second meeting, Patty?
21st?
21st?
Make a motion to,
I just would put a date in there. Can you just table it?
You can't table
To the
it. You have
next
to have some
meeting.
specifics, don't you?
I'd put a specific.
Because I think if you
But
table
You're
it,
gonna have it the first, it doesn't matter, okay?
I just say if we say no later than,
Yeah, I'd make a motion we table the petition for vacating the section line on, between 436th Avenue and 437th Avenue adjoining
I think if you just want to use the agenda item is all we need to.
Yeah.
till the meeting on September, no later than the meeting on September 21st.
Second.
Gary? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Table that. Steve? Next item on the agenda is contract renewal with Avera Sacred Heart Hospital and Yankton County Emergency Medical Services. Steve, you have the podium.
Evening, or afternoon, I guess, not that late
We're
yet.
supposed to move that.
Sorry, I always have such a loud voice anyhow. I'm here to talk to you guys about renewing this transport agreement that,
We had to set so it wouldn't echo.
is that okay?
It's fine.
All right. Anyhow, about a year ago this time, we entered into a transport agreement with Sacred Heart to transport patients from the specialty hospital to Sacred Heart and to give them a little less of a rate. As you see, I sent a memo. We've only completed 2 transfers that fit within the agreement in the last 12 months. With that being said, it's not an overburden, or it's not a burden at all. I just like to go ahead and just
This agreement's been
Renew it.
working out pretty smoothly, hasn't it, for the last year?
absolutely.
Any questions for Steve on this renewal of the Sacred Heart Transport Agreement from the Specialty Hospital to Avera Sacred Heart cell?
No?
Pretty easy.
Patty, with this, do we need a motion on this, or do we just need me to sign the contract?
You can go ahead. Last year you made a motion.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to renew the Sacred Heart Transport Agreement.
So moved.
Ray, is there a second?
Second.
Deb? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Ray and then Deb. Yep.
Well, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Thank you.
too
I
late.
have to be here.
No, you, no.
Okay.
All right, next item on the agenda, Sheriff Lahakis, jail system, security system upgrade, and a couple other things.
A couple others, maybe we'll start with the easy ones, kind of housekeeping. First one is, I gave you a list of surplus property. The basement of the public safety building apparently has attracted this stuff for many years. Some of it probably came from the courts and upstairs. We don't know, we just need to get rid of it.
It looked quite extensive.
It is, and it's over several years, so what we'll do is just take it to the dump. The stainless steel items will probably be taken to the scrap metal and see what it's worth. But the commission needs to declare these items surplus.
Any questions for Jim in regards to the items on the surplus sheet? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to declare these items as surplus.
I make a motion that we declare the items on the sheriff's property to dispose list as excess.
Second.
Does it matter if it's excess or surplus?
Surplus, excuse me. That's
Surplus to be destroyed or disposed of, I guess.
Just surplus is fine.
Okay. We have a motion, Gary, you second that?
Yeah.
Motion, we have a second, any discussion on the surplus property? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, that was an easy one.
Yeah, next, the Heartland Humane Society agreement. We have, all it is, it's just putting into writing what we have done with them for the past couple of years. I think we probably used them twice. And, you know, they charge us $25 to bring a dog out there. And as an example where, you know, we've had this happen is we have a car accident and the people are injured and in the hospital and they have a pet along. We don't have a place to put it, so we, you know, take it out there. But it just puts in writing what we've been doing all along. I guess they asked for it, I didn't, but I don't see any problem with it.
And this is just if we would have a dog. They're not coming out picking up anything for us. It's just if we would take it to them.
No.
So they say for each dog transferred, an incoming fee of $25 if they're unaltered. And if they're altered, it's only 15. So do they automatically alter a dog when it gets there?
I don't know, but it doesn't sound fun.
No, it doesn't. For each dog transferred to the shelter unaltered, an incoming fee of $25 for each dog transferred.
I think it's the ones that are strays or something that, you know, they put up for adoption.
Any other questions for the sheriff in regards to the Heartland Humane Society contract? Agreement, contract?
Agreement?
Agreement, all right. I'll entertain a motion for the Heartland Humane Society agreement.
I move to approve the Heartland Humane Society agreement.
The motion, is there a second?
Second.
Gary, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next.
Next item, you have 3 quotations from Integrated Technology and Security. It all has to do with the jail security systems. The money is all set aside in our jail capital improvement fund. The first one, which is critical, which we need to get done as soon as possible, is what they call the guard tours. We have a system that was in the jail. What it does is it logs every time a jailer is in a certain area. That's critical. You have to have that. The system is down, and it's no longer supported, so it has to be replaced. So that's the first quote. And the second one is an upgrade to the card readers, and again, the technology that's there is past its useful life, and the card readers here in the government center and over at emergency management and all the county are the newer, and what he's asking to do, because it's all in the same system, is upgrade those so they're all the same.
Make them uniform, essentially?
Yep. And that would be that second quote. The third quote is part of the remodel project. It's just the additional cameras that are needed in the areas that did not have them in the beginning. Altogether, it is less than what's statutorily required for bidding process, so we don't need to bid it. It's just needs the Commission's approval to move forward. These things weren't originally in the remodel project. That's why I'm back here today.
Any questions for the sheriff in regards to the 3 projects for the jail? Just to remind everyone, with all jail revenue we're getting, 25% gets put off to the capital improvement, so which is largely all the federal inmates we house. So to stay on top of things, this way doesn't use our tax dollars. It's actually using revenue from housing inmates.
Restricted fund, and I think right now we have right around $700,000 that we've saved in that fund for these purposes. So.
We'll still have to put the budget in there.
Yeah, but
Yeah, but the cash is there.
Yes.
Any other comments or questions in regards to these 3 bids? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the jail security system quotes for upgrade.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Ray, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Last item. The jail's open up a laundromat.
Yes.
Oh,
How could
almost
you
forgot
forget
about that
laundry?
one.
How could you forget laundry?
The jail has a commercial wash machine, and they've used a non-commercial machine for the overflow, and they burned through several. As you can see in the surplus property. And with the number we're housing right now, it is, they have to have a bigger commercial wash machine to keep up with the workload. So the quote there is exactly the same one that they have there now, so they'll be, you know, identical machines.
What's been our average daily count, still around, give or take 100?
The what?
Inmate population count, has that been around?
Today it was about 118.
118. So, whether it's uniforms,
So
or
it's
whether
a lot
it's
of
towels, or whatever it is. it's
Right,
going
twice a
through.
week they, you know, change out.
So just a washer, not a dryer.
Just a washer,
Dryer's okay.
so far.
So far, so good.
Don't tempt fate. Any other questions for the sheriff in regards to the wash machine? This is also would be coming out of the capital.
Yeah, it's
outlay
all
as well.
capital funds.
Any other questions for the sheriff? Hearing none, I entertain a motion on the washing machine.
Make a motion, go ahead.
I move to approve the purchase of a washer for the sheriff, for the jail.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yep.
Next item on the agenda is Julie Oak, dental and life insurance options from Wellmark.
Okay. Before we cover that, we talked about domestic partnership certification in January when I came to talk to you about the health insurance tax.
Thank you.
And it's getting to be a more, this is trending to offer more group health insurance coverage to a domestic partner. Definition of a domestic partner is covered on that front page. And in order to offer it, Wellmark Blue Cross Blue Shield requires that you change it in your employee handbook, that you are offering it to define domestic partners. And in order for someone to classify their partner as a domestic partner, they have to reside in the same house for 12 consecutive months. They're not legally married to anyone else. They are not related by blood, closer than would bar marriage in our state of residence. Agree to financially support each other, I'm kind of reading up, each other's sole domestic partner, and intend to remain so indefinitely and are responsible for common welfare. They have common or joint ownership of a residence, have at least 2 of the following: joint ownership in a motor vehicle, joint checking account, joint credit account, lease for a residence. Anyhow, basically stating they have to follow these rules. And then the benefit to them is that then they could purchase health insurance through the county for their domestic partner as a spouse, like a spousal rate or family rate. So it's just, it is an option. Like I said, I brought it up in January. We kind of tabled it because we were talking about the tax, and it's getting to be more and more of an issue. It has not been brought to my attention in this county, but just kind of trying to keep you on the forefront.
Rob, if we had to change our policy handbook, is there certain readings, certain publications, or is it something if we wanted to change today, since it's on the agenda, we could change it? Or we could table it and talk about it at a later date?
Absolutely.
This is already in place, you're just
No.
not in place.
No, and the biggest thing is for folks who are in a relationship together and maybe one does not have health insurance offered them through work, and they want to be on your plan, your group plan, this would be available to them if they can follow inside of these classifications. And then once they're in that partnership, and in like a traditional marriage, instead of a divorce decree, they would have to sign off and say that their partnership is has ended, has ended, and then they're able to get COBRA. It's somewhat of a big deal legally, of course, for Wellmark and also for the county. So if you offer it, and it is, like I said, it is trending. It is something that is being offered. So
It doesn't cost us anything.
absolutely not. No, no. But in order for Wellmark to recognize it as as offering group insurance to the spouse or non-spouse or domestic partner, however you want to word it, it has to be in your handbook. Okay, and you can certainly table it. It's, once again, this is for your information.
Well, I would think if it's something that we could act on today, that we should do it sooner rather than later.
Rob, have you had an opportunity to review this information?
Do you want one of these?
Just to be on the side of, err on the side of caution, I'd like to have Rob just review this information for us, and we can bring it up at the next meeting on September 4th.
Perfect.
Okay?
Then also include...
Before we move on,
Sorry.
any other discussion in regards to that from the commission? Okay. Thank you, Julie.
Okay, then it has been brought to my attention that there isn't a bona fide dental plan or vision plan offered to your employees. There are supplementary, complementary dental plans, complementary vision. I don't even think there's a complementary vision plan in the county. But what I am presenting to you would be a bona fide dental plan for employees, completely voluntary. Does not cost the county anything other than the time it takes to pull the money out of their paycheck. Through Delta Dental and VSP Vision. Just another option to strengthen your benefit package to your employees. The price, cost are included in your packet. There's, of course, Plan 1 and Plan 2. Biggest difference is Plan 1 does not offer orthodontics, Plan 2 does. There's a difference of 80 cents a month to the employee. So I would highly recommend you just pick a plan and offer that to the employees. And it is, once again, something that doesn't matter how many people take it, doesn't matter who takes it, it's just an option available to them.
Is there a deadline on that enrollment on these?
None of this. The one thing I would want to point out is the vision insurance. The quote was valid until July 1st. It's because that's when I requested it, and that's when I got on the agenda in August. So there may be a slight difference of a few pennies on the quote. So
And that's on the vision?
That's on the vision, correct. The dental insurance, the quote actually is good through the end of the year. Okay? But of course, once again, sooner is better than later if you make a decision. But you do not have to make a decision tonight. No.
Thank you.
You can table it. And the other inclusion is offering a guaranteed life insurance policy to your employees. I represent New York Life. That is the insurance company, the main insurance company that I represent. Been in business for over 170 years, and they offer a guaranteed life insurance to employees of groups 50 and under. It's actually something they just started offering a month ago. So since your plant, you don't quite have 100, now being offered to under 100, and there is absolutely no health questions. So it's guaranteed issue.
In regards to the life insurance options, we've had another presentation from AFLAC.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to have those two reviewed side by side, so to speak.
Sure.
Again, I know both options did not cost the county anything, but I don't want to open the door to have 20 different
Absolutely.
insurance providers coming in with 20 different plans, and it becomes it would yes, a nightmare for the auditor's office on payroll deductions.
Absolutely. How would you like to do that?
It's a good question. Let's go back to the dental and the vision option first, because that has not been brought up by anyone else.
Just usually when we have through AFLAC.
Correct, and that is not a bona fide dental, it's a supplementary
Yep.
dental plan, correct. And I think our prices are pretty comparable, I mean, for what they get through AFLAC, through what they would have for a dental plan, correct.
So let's just talk right now in regards to the dental and the vision. Is it truly a vision plan?
Yes,
I
sir.
mean, I have It's not a vision plan, it's more of a benefit plan through my employer.
Okay.
I have Optalegra, and I believe they've actually come.
That's what we have.
That's what we
Yes,
have.
that's a supplement to your health insurance. This is an actual standalone vision plan. You go to the eye doctor and they help you, they have copay. You buy glasses, there's a copay. I mean, it covers your, I have several people have vision. You weren't able to buy a very good vision plan in the state of South Dakota up until last year. This is a really good plan.
So in regards to the dental and the vision plan, any discussions or questions for Julie at this time? Is this something we want to offer to our employees?
I think it's very, be a very good option for our employees to have. Because, you know, price of a dental examination, whether it's cleaning or filling. I mean, I had a filling the first time in many years a couple weeks ago, and I was shocked at the cost. You know, it's just one of those things you don't do for a couple of years and have one, and
Right.
wow. So I think this would be a very positive thing for our employees, and that's
Well,
my,
especially
you know.
since the fact we don't have a health savings account option right now, it may be a benefit. So, other questions for Julie from the commission in regards to the dental or the vision? Pat, if you want to make this a part of a package, does it need to be a motion or just an approval from the board?
Just an approval from the board to move forward.
And then that would just,
It's up to the employee.
yeah,
They
so
wish
that
to
just
have.
change their deductions from the payroll.
And then June could, I think,
I would like us to have some sort of guidelines just to help out your office, Patty, so enrollment time doesn't happen to be, you know, 1 month you
Yes.
have 5 employees come in and another one, or I'll let you kind of garner up some rules, maybe work with Rob if we need to, just kind of have an enrollment date so it makes things a little bit easier
I couldn't
on
agree more.
payroll. So in regards to the Delta Dental and the vision care plan that's in front of us today, any objections from the commission to offer this as an employee benefit? Employee would pay the premium on this at no expense to the county. Is there any objection amongst the commissioners?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Gary?
No.
Ray? I don't have any objections either, so I'll let you work with Patty a little bit to work on some sort of details to keep your office operating smoothly for you guys. And then in regards to the life insurance option, I think that's something we should take some time to review. I don't think we should put it on the September 4th agenda, but maybe the second meeting in September, and then let Aflac come in front of
We had
us.
this one too.
Wasn't that the one from Aflac?
Which one is
A
that?
group term life policy?
Is that a Lincoln?
Reliance Standard.
I have no idea. That's not for me.
Yeah, excuse me, it was prepared by Aflac.
Okay,
Just to
no
look at the
problem.
two side by side and have a little time to look at that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Make a note, Patty, have that on the 22nd meeting in September.
Okay, all right. And the domestic partnership, you're going to table that until you take a look at that also?
Correct.
Okay, very good. I'll wait to hear from Patty. Very good, thank you.
Any other questions for Julie before we move on?
Okay,
Thank you.
thank
Julie.
you. Thank you for your time.
All right, next on the agenda, can I get a motion to go into Board of Adjustments?
So moved.
Ray? Deb? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So as we go, the first item on the agenda on the Board of Adjustment, before we get into that, right now we have 4 out of 5 commissioners in attendance. As in any conditional use permit or any variance, we need supermajority.
We need
66 and 2/3. So if it's 2-2, of course, it fails. So we need 3 out of 4 in this scenario. Okay. All right. So first item on the agenda is the modification of a conditional use permit for Mission Hill, site number 313, Mr. Carl Shank. As we've done before, rules laid out will allow the applicant 30 minutes to state their case. After the applicant is done, we'll open up public comment, 30 minutes for proponents, 30 minutes for opponents, and then allow 10 minutes for rebuttal from the applicant or his designated representatives. So, Pat, first one.
So the first one, as the chairperson said, on CUP modification for the Mission Hill Barn. It was recommended for approval based on findings of fact of July 31st, 2018, which the applicant is requesting a modification of a conditional use permit in 3138 to be modified from a Class D confined animal feeding operation to a Class E confined animal feeding operation. Applicant requests to decrease 2,400 head pork finisher barn finisher swine over 55 pounds or 960 animal units, Class C finishing barn in an agriculture district in Yankton County. Said property is legally described as the east half of the southwest quarter and the southeast quarter of Section 26, Range 94, or excuse me, Township 94, Range 55, hereinafter referred to as Mission Hill North Township, County of Yankton, State of South Dakota. E911 address is TBA, or to be announced, 308 Street, Mission Hill, South Dakota. So briefly, as you went through the findings, I'm sure that you went through the findings there where we had both proponents and opponents speak about this application. We had various comments regarding the requirements, performance standards that would be applied to this. And your findings are very specific as you go through there. If we talk about screening and buffering, or if we talk about signs, or we talk about performance standards, you have exhibits that you can refer to. So that's either on your site plan, your order model control, or the other exhibits that we have attached to it. So based on those exhibits, the applicant has met all the requirements for a Class C confined animal unit operation.
You said E, correct?
Class E.
Thank you.
As in Elmer. And so it fits all those. They've met all the requirements. They have their notification. We have the fields identified, and we have the site plan. So quickly, it's a conditional use permit that's required for an operation such as this. This will be a Class C swine. There'll be one barn of 2,400 head, or 960 animal units. The barn will be 51 feet by 392 feet with a manure storage system, which will be a pit manure storage system. The site plan does include trees and shrubs as provided on the plan. The application itself has the application property information. We've done all the notifications as required. It meets the residential, Class 2 community, and yard setbacks. It has the stormwater permit. It will require that. That will be required by DNR. It has addressed the odor and the screening. You have a very good odor model. It's very, from what we're finding out from SDSU, has proven to be relatively accurate. We also then discussed the facility management under Section 519. So there's a motility plan, there's a screening and buffer plan, there's a stormwater management plan, there's a fly and rodent control plan, and there's a manure nutrient management field application notification plan. The DNR application performance standards is not required under at least a Class E capable, which meaning when you went back into your findings, just to make sure everybody's on the same page, there are several things in here in which they request specific information from DNR, and those would be that a proposed maintenance of the waste facilities, the land application process or methods, the legal description, and the mapping showing where the nutrient application is, and the general South Dakota State general permit that outlines manure management practices that an operator must follow to prevent water pollution and protect health. But as you go back through our requirements, all of these will be answered. The proposed maintenance is back there underneath the operations and their best management practices. The land application is very well laid out. You have who those fields are going to and who's in the half mile of those fields, and that's all underneath your exhibits. You do have the legal description and map of everything showing where these facilities will be and where the nutrients will be applied. And then, so the one that we don't have, but we are following, because the injection system will be used in our county too, and that all manure must be applied through injection systems, so it does prevent water and
The injection system, we're
pollution.
talking about it would have to be knifed in.
It will have
correct?
to be knifed in, yep,
Thank you.
or injected, yep. So those are the requirements that we have under a conditional use permit. Any
Sorry, I didn't mean
questions?
to interrupt you.
Yep. Any questions for me?
So in addition, it said loads will be within 5 miles, right? No farther than 5, closer than, or further than 5 miles
Correct.
for transportation of
Correct.
the liquid manure.
Yep. And another point to add on to that is that when the barns were reduced to 1, it does even localize those transportations further. So we truly feel they're almost going to go to the field right where they're connected to. We hardly will have any transportation.
So just to clarify, we have an approved CUP for 2 barns on each of these locations, correct?
Correct.
So if for some reason these didn't pass tonight, they would still have the approval for the 2 barn in place. This doesn't do
Correct.
anything to jeopardize that, correct?
Correct.
Except minimize its impact.
It will eliminate, it will modify that permit if it's approved tonight. That permit currently has been recommended to be modified, but it is not modified yet.
Correct, and so
Okay.
it doesn't change the setbacks, it reduces the odor footprint?
Correct. Yes. And we did prove that with our odor footprint that we received back from
For the 2.
SDSU.
And the original for the double barn site was passed unanimously, correct?
Correct.
Other questions for Pat? All right. At this time, Mr. Shank, if you wanted to have a representative speak on your behalf or yourself, you have 30 minutes to essentially state your case.
Well, Mr. Chairman, you never want to give a lawyer in 30 minutes.
I want to give you 12.
12. I can do it in less than that. I'd like to pass out these.
Just to note time, it's 4:47 for everyone to know the time.
Start the clock.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Patty.
I'm going to be brief to the point, but I think Commissioner Bodenstedt hit the nail on the head. This is a situation where the Board of
Mr.
Adjustment...
Kolochek, can you please have a seat, please?
A Board
Thank
of
you.
Adjustment passed where there'd be 2 barns, and really the only thing that my client is requesting, Mr. Shank is requesting, is to reduce it down to 1. So all of the other qualifications and criteria that was met for 2, all that he's doing is reducing it down to 1. And if you notice, what I provided to you is the odor map there, and you notice the first one is what it was if there had been 2 barns. The one on the bottom, the second one is showing what it would be just merely for the first barn. In addition to the application, my client has volunteered to put in 235 trees of different varieties in 4 parallel rows for the purpose of improving the air quality by reducing and intercepting airborne particles and chemicals and odors. So from that standpoint, he's going over and beyond what is really required of him. The trees would take up a little over half an acre of land. It would be planted in 2019. You know, one of the things when I was at the Planning Commission, in which it voted unanimously to approve this, was that the comments that were made really weren't that they weren't in favor of reducing it from 2 to 1. What their comments were is they didn't want you to approve it, period. And so, as was previously brought out in this situation here, my client's trying to remove it down to 1 for different reasons. If it's not approved, then he would just continue to build 2 of them as opposed to 1. And that's really kind of the Reader's Digest version of the whole situation. So we'd ask your approval of this modification. Thank you.
Is there any questions of Mr. Stevens? Thank you. You actually got it done in 2 minutes. All right, time now is 4:49. Before we open it for public comments, is there any questions or comments from the commission before we move forward on the public comments? Hearing none, at this time, we will open up the floor for any opposition in regards to the Shank modification of his conditional use permit. If you would like to approach or speak, please approach the podium, state your name clearly, and total time for opposition would be 30 minutes. Total time for support would be 30 minutes. So anyone would like to speak in opposition of this conditional use permit, please.
You're supposed to give their address, correct?
Do you need their address, Patty?
The speakers, in proximity?
No.
Okay.
So, anyone like to speak in opposition of the Shank permit, please approach the podium. I'm going to just modify the time since I talked a little bit longer. It's 4:50, so 30 minutes starting now.
Thanks, Todd. Good afternoon. On the July 31st P&Z meeting.
We know who you are.
Yes, I do, but the microphone doesn't know that I'm Phil Taw, and I live at 44873 River Rat Road, about 8 miles from the proposed site. At the planning and zoning on July 31st, Mr. Stevens was right. We didn't necessarily have a lot of opposition in that it was already approved for 2, so why not go to 1? And I did express some thanks that Mr. Schenk actually reached out and we had talked about putting up some trees, and he's agreed to do that. And I appreciated that move. What wasn't discussed at that meeting was the nursery barn that's about half a mile away. If you count those animal units and ownership things, and you can go through some of that stuff, it would make it still a Class D facility by animal units. And that's what and since then I found that out. My concern is a couple. One, that the P&Z didn't discuss that or didn't have that information. It was completed based on the dates of the building permit application for the nursery barn and some of the other documentation to transfer some ownership to Carl Schenk II. And I can follow some of the logic with that. My concern is that the legal question of what is ownership, what is an applicant, and what is an animal feeding operation, and all the common ownership, common field, common system for delivery, those questions are not matters of fact, but matters of a legal interpretation and the intent of the ordinance. So I encourage you to have a discussion about that and see those documents if you don't have them. I'm sure Mr. Garrity has them. I obtained them from his office as well last week. What I fear could happen, or may, whether Mr. Schenk does it or not, or somebody else, we simply get another LLC and call it a different owner, but it's still a significant proprietary financial interest in what's going on in that property. And he uses, in his case, Bellaterra 1, 2, or 4, what are other LLCs he has as the agent for. And he simply gives one to his daughters or someone else, and soon enough we have a Class C, B, or even A facility, although some of the setbacks would obviously be affected that close to Mission Hill. A rampant expansion of something that is, in my interpretation, of both the intent of the ordinance and ownership, that is common ownership, and that's the intent of what he's going on. That we could just have an expansion of that, and we open up another can of worms for a legal interpretation for both this case as well as others that may come down the road. So that's the basis for my objection to this one, is that it ought to remain a Class D facility. A state permit ought to be required because of the number of animal units within a mile. I know they separated the fields. If he wants to build 2 finishing barns and a nursery barn, you've already approved that. But you need to consider what the intent of the ordinance is and where this facility is going. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in opposition, please approach.
My name is David Healy. We live at 308 45th Street, 444 Avenue. And I see where Carl already has his pit dug for the building, so I presume this is just a waste of time. But anyway, I'd still like to comment on the fact that it looks like we're going to be passing another barn with no odor controls on it. There's a difference of opinion between what is the most effective way to control odors. We heard recently from Dr. Dunn that there are effective means of controlling odors. They're economical, and he also made the comment that if we're going to go down this road, we ought to be doing it in a smart and responsible manner. So I guess I'd just like to comment to the board that we don't seem to be taking that approach. And I think myself and 99% of the county are questioning as to why that direction is being taken. There are some things that we do know. This barn is going to contain 2,400 hogs and with a pit underneath it. If you were to turn the fans off on this barn and enter that barn, you would die. The hogs would die. So I don't think there's any question that we're producing deadly poisonous gases within this barn. Now what we're going to do is allow the applicant to open up his side curtains, turn the fans on, and blow these deadly gases out into the neighborhood. Your odor footprint will show how far those deadly gases are going. And I assume that odor footprint does not include the barn just down the road from it. So you're going to add to this odor footprint with the addition of that other barn. So when we look at the ordinance, it states the intention of the ordinance was to promote the safety, health, and welfare for the Yankton County citizens. Blowing deadly gases out into the neighborhood, I do not see how we are achieving that. We have a whole section pertaining to CAFOs. We state trees shall be planted. For some reason along the way, it's been considered an option. It clearly states that they shall be planted. And in fact, it goes on to talk about best management practices in the ordinance. For whatever reason, I have yet to see any best management practices encouraged, which is, again, disappointing for the citizens of Yankton County. We've heard from Dr. Dunn on the recommendation of building our agriculture in this state in an environmentally conscious, smart, intelligent means. Governor Dugard has come out and made that same statement. The Pork Producers Council of the USA has made that same statement. South Dakota pork producers, even Centera says, the people providing the hog, says they want to see these barns built in an environmental manner. When we pass permits that require no odor controls whatsoever, no new technology that's available, are we really doing the right thing for the citizens of Yankton County? I guess I really question if we really are. And so I guess I'd just like to repeat the first the part where the whole intention of this ordinance is to protect the safety, welfare, and health of this county. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in opposition of the shank permit? Please state your name.
Dan Dolish. I live at 30732 444th Avenue, about 5/8 a mile away from this particular barn. And it looks like an additional hog barn or additional nursery barn, which will be just to the west or the east of me. So I just want to express the negativity of this finishing barn that's being built. I'm sorry I couldn't be at the planning and zoning because I had back surgery and we had a medical emergency in the family where we almost lost a daughter. So I couldn't be there at that time, but I thought I'd better try and make it here. I know you've already approved for the 2 barns, just like Phil and Dave said, but I also want to mention that again and again, just repeatedly, there is a number of families that live around this area that are here first. And like I say, the odors and all that stuff that the odor footprint is putting out, I mean, you just have to look at that, and it just feels to me like it's not happening. And I just wanted to express that maybe our zoning laws need to be updated because of the way things are being processed today. So I just wanted to express that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak in opposition to the Shank conditional use permit? Please approach. Any other opposition in regards to the Shank permit? Seeing none, we'll close the opposition at this time at 5:01. Now, if anyone wants to speak in support of the Shank conditional use permit, please approach the podium. About 30 minutes for the supporters.
Robert M. Frayne, 44877 305th Street. I've lived in Yankton County for 71 years. I was born here, raised here. My family has been here since the 1870s, as long as Carl's family has been here, and as long as some of my other neighbors have been here. And when we started with this zoning, I was against it because I thought zoning, it's not going to be any good for the farmers, but it's gotten to the point where we have to do something to protect the farmers and agriculture in Yankton County. That's why when we started out, it should have been 80-acre minimum to put a house out. That's what we were working on. Well, then there was people who came in, they wanted 1 acre. So you could have one person, and then they wanted to have that. So one person owning 1 acre could take and do 4 sections, stop anything that's going in there, because they thought they did. But then things got better. We kind of worked on it. There were some compromises made. It went down to 20 acres, which still is not, in my opinion, not enough. But then we worked. We had out by the lake in those areas, it went to housing and everything. And then we went to other areas where there was agricultural. There was districts, ag districts, home districts, districts where you could put in and developments where you could have planned unit developments and things like that, which is very important. But we got to learn that there is agriculture in Yankton County, and agriculture involves dust, working late at night, working hard, a lot of under different conditions and everything, and it's got to be protected from somebody taking an acre or less, getting a variance, for really no reason. Because it's supposed to be, they just want to only buy 1 acre and build a $500,000 house. They then affect all their neighbors, all the agricultural producers in this county. And if I don't have the figures with me, but I'm sure a banker can tell you that agriculture is still very important in Yankton County. That's the lifeblood of this county. And as long as I can remember, farming economy, the hogs were the mortgage lifters. The people that raised hogs, that's how they paid for it. That's how they made their living. That's how they kept the little towns in Yankton and those areas growing. And then it came along, grain prices got high, so then you kind of cut back on livestock so there wasn't as much done. So then we ended up shipping our corn over to Iowa, and then they added the value to it. Now, grain prices aren't as good, and we're back to what livestock is a very, very important part of keeping the economy going here. All the little mom and pop stores, everybody, it helps. It helps pay taxes so that we can get some roads fixed and get things done like that. So I'm thinking this might be a good idea. And if you're going to force Carl to build 2 of them, so be it. But if he wants to just build 1, I think that should be his right too. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wants to speak in favor of the Shank conditional use permit?
Louis Johnson, 30441 447th Avenue. The decision before you today is to approve this and let him build 1 building per site, or not approve it and force him to build 2 buildings per site, correct?
That's correct.
Right.
And we're having opposition to cutting it in half because we're against them. I'm having a hard time following that. And Mr. Tao, I don't know how things were done in your world, but in my world, when you have, it's called a family farm, and when you bring somebody into the operation, you just don't have them write you out a check for $3 to $5 million and tell them to start. Put the damn camera down, Frank. You didn't ask for permission to take a picture, so don't. My son, when he came back to farm, we farmed together. I turned it over to him. He took 12 years for the equipment. I used my equity to build him a barn. With all the lawsuits and crap, he's got another 2.5 years of payments on it, and we still don't have any income. But that's progress to some people. I guess I don't see why. Does Walmart come in and ask if they can sell basketballs or if they can sell motor oil or car batteries? I mean, they're all poisonous, or shotgun shells. And I'm very sorry, but what happened to being able to do what you wanted to on your own damn place? I didn't think this was a group effort where you had to. Is that what made America great? We went and asked everybody if it wouldn't ruffle their feathers. Why not just say everybody has to feed 1,000 head of hogs, and then nobody will notice the difference? If you live in the country, you got to feed pigs. End of discussion.
Thank you, Louis. Anyone else like to speak in favor of the conditional use permit?
Hi, my name's Dan Klimish. I live in 609 Burgess Road in Yankton. I couldn't tell you how far I live away. I'm not really speaking for or against, but I have a concern of government transparency. I'm trying to pull up the agenda on the county's website, and I don't see that it's on there currently. So could you double check that?
What is it?
The agenda?
Mr. Clemish?
Yes.
I went to the website this afternoon from my personal computer, and it's on there.
I'm on it right now and I can't pull it up. Could you just verify that it is? Okay.
I pulled it up I pulled this up this afternoon.
I looked at it this morning and I didn't see it. So I would just let you know. I'm sure it's fine. I just wanted to bring that up. So thank you very much.
Is it posted on the door when you walked in?
I believe, again, and their attorneys here, there's South Dakota open meeting law. If you have a website, it has to be posted on the website. So again, I'm not speaking for it against. It's not on the, it's not currently up. Just letting you know. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other want to speak in favor of the conditional use permit? We'll add a couple more minutes onto that. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment at this time. We will let the applicant, if you like to, have some time for rebuttal before we open up for discussion of the commission.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I know that this is always an area of concern for everybody, regardless of what side of the issue that you're on. But I guess I'd like to summarize it by saying this, you know, when we're listening to the individuals that are against this, here's what they didn't argue. They didn't argue that Mr. Schenk hadn't met absolutely every one of the criteria that's in the ordinance. There was one person who said he didn't do that, because in the fact, he did do that. And you know, what the ordinances talk about promoting safety, health, and welfare, you know, how is that defined? Well, everybody can have their own definition of it, but what it is in Yankton County is how it's defined in the ordinances. That's how it's defined. And if you meet those requirements, you have met the requirements of safety, health, and welfare. And you know, nobody's above the law, and that applies to everybody. And as much as, obviously, Mr. Schenk has to follow the law and the criteria of the ordinances, and he's done all that. But it also applies to everybody else who may not be in favor of this, and that if someone meets the criteria, they go through all the process, and they're voted down, then you recognize that that's what the law is. And if you want to do something different, then you go about changing the law. You know, I guess I wouldn't agree with Mr. Dolish, who indicated that we were here first. You know, the truth of the matter was agriculture was here first. And we've encroached upon that livelihood. You know, it seems to me that when you listen to, and regardless of whether it's this topic or not, when it comes to zoning laws, here's what I think you find, that zoning laws are good if they agree with me. And zoning laws are bad if I don't get my way. And in this situation here, what we really have is the most unique situation I've heard, is we have individuals who really are not here, as I think the first speaker who is against it indicated, that, you know, we're really not here to be against him going from 2 to 1. We're just against him having it, period. And I think since this board has already approved for 2 of them, reducing it down to 1 only makes common sense. And I would ask that you approve that request. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. So just for the record, Mr. Clemish, I'm on the county website right now, and on the home page on the left-hand side where it says upcoming meeting, the agenda is linked right there in the lower left-hand corner, August 21st, 2018 at 4 p.m. So now that closes the rebuttal piece. We open the floor back to the commission in regards to questions in regards to the modification of the Schenk conditional use permit.
I do. I would like someone, either Mr. Garrity or somebody from Mr. Schenk's team, to explain the ownership of these 2 properties and how the fact that it is not a D, but they're both E's.
When the applicant, when Mr. Schenk came in and Carl Jr. approached us regarding doing the nursery barn, which would be a separate entity, it was going to be for Carl Jr. And it made sense. That's how things work like that. But I said, you must I can't just take your word that you are going to deed it to Carl Jr., so I have to have the paperwork. So the paperwork is all attached to that. There's a contract for deed, there's a lease, and there's a field that's all designated for that nursery barn. It is an administrative permit, but we did follow up to make sure that, because as Mr. Tao had pointed out, if that barn did not have a separate ownership, it is within 1 mile of the barn that's being proposed. So it either has to have a separate ownership, or it's going to be considered a Class D because it pushed you over the 1,000 animal units. He knew at that point, he says, yes, it will be. This is Carl Jr.'s barn, and he now has the contract for deed for this barn. And it is signed.
It's in one of our packets?
It's an administrative permit, so it was signed, and you can certainly come up and look in the office. We have the site plan, and we have everything all set up. There's an administrative permit because he met the requirements of ownership, the common ownership, and he met the requirements then of the nursery barn setback.
So is that application 3189, or which one does Carl Jr. own?
It'd be the nursery barn, mid-August. Or no, it's late July, I think it's on the July building permit report. It's not a feeder barn. It's an administrative barn, so never went through the public hearing process.
Pat, question. The nursery barn, to apply the manure, has a separate fields, correct?
Yes.
Can this barn that's in front of us today, or barns that are in front of us today, can they apply on the same fields?
No.
So my next question is do they have the fields already designated for this conditional use permit? And it's separate from the nursery barn permits?
So the process we had to go through that is what were the fields that we picked out for the 2 barns on application back in the first application for 2 barns. We went through there and said, you now don't need so many fields, because you only have 1 barn, and you must remove the barn that you put your nursery barn in. You have to remove that field. And so what field would that be? So we did. And we removed that, plus we removed those individuals that were going to be notified also. So we removed, I think we moved about 3 fields, and still have sufficient fields to put the manure on the 2 barns or the 1 barn that's existing. So we went through it step by step by step by step, so that if I'm monitoring this, I know these fields here are dictated in that permit that you have in front of you, and we did take some of those fields out of the number 2. They're not in this application. This application has specific fields assigned, and the nursery barn is not in that field, is in those assignments.
And that complies with our zoning ordinances that are laid out?
Yes.
Thank you.
The zoning ordinance lays out, there's a couple of things I want to clarify. One is that, number one, the applicant can't take a permit and run that permit through on their own basis, such as what you're seeing now, and then transfer it or sell it or brokerage that permit. That operator has to do that operation, has to build that. So when Mr. Shank comes in, Mr. Shank has to build that barn and operate that barn. You can't broker it. The other one that's out there is that when we're talking about what combines barns there, one of the things that brought up quite a bit is the common ownership. And that falls in there where, I'll pull it up here, and we'll just read it so that we're looking at the same thing.
Pat, what section are you in?
It goes back in definitions.
Okay.
And so, it's called an animal feeding operation, or CAFO. So, an animal feeding operation would be, is a lot or facility where an established number of animal units are confined, stabled, fed, or maintained in either open or housed lot for more than 45 days, or more in any 12-month period. The open lot does not change crops, vegetation, forage growth, post-harvest residues in the normal growing season. 2 or more facilities under common ownership are a single animal operation if they are joined within 1 mile, or if they use the same common area or field or system for disposal of manure. Of goes on to define the classes, Class A, B, C, D, E, and F. So with this, what we found when we went back in there, you said, I've eliminated the common ownership because we have designated that. I have a contract for deed for Carl Jr. And that's being purchased from the Carl Shank Limited Properties, or such is listed. Then we had to say we can't put it on the same field. In other words, or use a common area. So then we designated, and that's attached to the permit for the nursery itself, that field. And it's sufficient field to take care of that facility. Now, I want to back, a couple other things were said. If you overlay, we do have the odor footprint model from the nursery barn, and we have the odor footprint model from the 2400, and neither one of them touch each other. So there's no overlapping. It's not making, there's no overlap. Neither one of them touch each other, and I can do that again if you need me to, but we did analyze that. Thirdly is that interpretation is what we're dealing with quite a bit here. And when we talk about shalls and woods and things, let's talk about number 10. Animal feeding operations shall prepare a facility management plan. Okay, you see that every time in your permits. We've always done that. The plan shall be designed to dispose of dead animals. We've seen how that, we've done well. We've got the manure. We've got a plan for that. We've got a plan for the wastewater. In such a manner to control odors and flies. The County Planning Commission and Board of Adjustment will review the need for control measures on a site-specific basis, taking into consideration prevailing winds, wind direction, and topography. The following procedures to control flies and odors shall be addressed in a management control plan. There's our shall be. They need to be addressed, okay? So you have an operational plan. You have a methods for disposing animals. The one that we run into a lot that gets stated a lot out there is that it says, this is what it says. It says a screening and or buffering section to include the planting of trees and shrubs of adequate size to control wind movement and dispersion of odors generated by the facility. I will stand on this all along. This is made for everything from Class A to Class E facilities. This whole management process. This is what the performance standards are. And when we look at an odor footprint model that is spreading out in the footprints that it's doing, we are considering what are we going to do when we put these trees in? Why are we putting these trees in? Of course we're considering it. It doesn't say you put them in just because willy-nilly because they built the facility. It says we have to consider on a site-specific basis, considering the prevailing winds and topography, which is what the odor footprint does for us. And we hear several times how accurate it is. Then we make our reaction and our recommendations and our decisions regarding do we need to do more microclimate control in that area. If this was an open pit, there's no doubt about it. There really isn't. But this is not an open pit. This is a covered pit, and trees and screening and buffering are, what are we doing? With this facility, we've already got them pushed clear back 330 feet. So they're not on the right of way. They're 660 feet from a neighboring property. So what are we screening? We have to look at it on a specific basis. If we want to screen to hope that somebody doesn't see it when they're driving by, they have to be a lot closer than that. The other piece of the puzzle is when we look at the odor footprint model, it doesn't give us a basis to say why would we screen. Now, if the applicant wants to come in and said, I've been visiting with neighbors and I'm visiting with applicants and I would like to try and make a little peace with that or come to compromise and they'd like a screen, that isn't based on the site-specific analysis that we're supposed to do here. We're pragmatic here. We're looking at what our facts are and what our evidence is. And we have to make our decisions based on that. And I believe that this ordinance is really clear in that. Yes, we shall do that. That's why we do the odor footprint model. But these really are Class E operations. They're as small as they're as small as they go. So we're really not talking about big, huge facilities here either. So I just want us to get that perspective. There is nothing in our ordinance that says you shall plant trees and bushes. There isn't. It says you shall consider and make sure that you understand why you would or you would not. And you could say it out loud. But it doesn't tell you have to. And that's been a mix-up in this interpretation, in my opinion, is that we are analyzing these things, and based on our odor footprint model is telling us that there is not necessity in some of these screenings.
So, Pat, there's, would you say that we are including best management practices as well? I mean,
Absolutely. And if you take a look at the findings that Carl Schenk put forth, and especially on his odor model, he's even willing to take a look at pit additives. He's willing to take a look at new facilities. He's willing to take a look, he even says it in there, right in his findings, that I'm willing and we'll take a look at those facilities and what we can do to make them better. The other one that I didn't like heard today that I don't think is, again, is out of context. If I go home tonight and plug my sewer vent, I'm pretty much dead tomorrow in my nice airtight house. Now, does that make that a CAFO? Did that make a dangerous gas situation? You bet it did. But what was I doing? Why did it happen? I mean, God forbid we lose people that way. But come on, let's get some perspective here. Let's get some perspective. Nobody can live in a enclosed, no human or living creature can live in that kind of environment and not have ventilation, period. So that's the other thing I want to point out is that that's not true either. So.
Pat, so let's talk about the odor footprint tool. Was this tool around when we wrote the ordinances in 2003?
No.
Was this tool around in 2008 when the zoning ordinances on CAFOs were strengthened?
We weren't utilizing it if it was.
I think this has only been around for about 5 years with Dr. Nikolai from SDSU.
Yes, and I remember...
And Dr. Cordes as well, who have both moved on from SDSU.
Yes. And Todd, to back that up a bit, we were getting more and more involved, and I was starting to see them show up a little bit more in late 2015. But in 2016, we started embracing it because it made sense.
So what I'm getting at is we're adding additional modern best practices to our evaluation of each site, correct?
Correct.
Second of all, in regards to the odor footprint tool, as I look at what's in front of us today, there's two footprints here, one with 2 barns, one with 1 barn. And as I look at both barns, and I look at, I'm going to call it an oval, it's not a circle, but showing where the odor was going to go.
Yep, based on the...
And it looks like the odor travels further to the south and to the east on both of these footprints. But as I look at the 2 barn, that extends out further than the 1 barn. And we've utilized these, I would guess, since Mr. Schenk has now volunteered and is in the application in front of us, to plant 4 rows of trees.
Mm-hmm.
So that is taking into account modern practices, utilizing trees that are planted, even though it doesn't require it, but we're putting it in place.
And yes, and we're utilizing data, real data, by using the odor footprint model.
So there is, in this permit, one of the conditions, which there, as I read, multiple conditions for Mr. Schenk to comply with before he can get a building permit.
Yes.
To address a lot of these concerns.
They're already they are addressed, and those concerns, those requirements are all compliant.
So we're using best practices. So I'd like to address the comment in regards to President Dunn when he was here last week, when I was at that meeting as well. And I'll tell you this, Mr. Dunn has got a lot of responsibilities managing a Division I, largest university in the state of South Dakota. I don't think anybody who runs a business that has that many employees and that many divisions is going to know every intimate detail in regards to what's going on. And he did say that the barns are using biofilters, which I asked the clarifying question because I talked with the head of the swine unit, Dr. Bob Thaler, who we've had here in Yankton County doing some education sessions for the Planning and Zoning Committee. And Dr. Thaler says the biofilters are not in operation. And Dr. Dunn did say he believed that they were in operation. So when that meeting was over, I reached out to Dr. Thaler, and Dr. Thaler confirmed with me via email, which I have, that the barns are not or the biofilters are not in operation at this time. They're actually in the process of redesigning them to make them more efficient. There's still not enough data out there to tell us if they work or don't work, but they are in the process of continuing to take the data and make sure it works. And before they make it work, they want to make sure, you don't want to implement a tool if it doesn't work.
That's their job. That's what they're there for. I don't think any farmer in this area or any farmer that's going to spend this kind of money is not going to utilize their expertise and their precision agriculture in the future. They have to, and they're going to be our leader. They're our cutting edge. The other thing I'd like to touch on, and that was Dr. Dunn also stated that he felt odor footprint models were very accurate, and that he has a barn right next to the rest area on the south of Brookings County there, that they were very concerned how that barn would have odor. And that barn, he said, we ran that odor footprint on the early days of running that odor footprint, and he says it's still extremely accurate. It was accurate then. And they've had almost 4 to 5 years of data on that odor footprint now. So I think, again, SDSU is doing the research and doing the science that gives us the ability to utilize those tools to help us and to locate and properly, as it says here, to understand the wind movement and dispersion of odors generated by the facility. That's a huge tool for us. And it takes away the speculation.
Other questions for Pat from the commission?
So, just to clarify, the only things really from the D to E is section 1 that is not required.
Correct.
But he is going to have to get a stormwater permit from DENR. He's going to have to get or present his nutrient management plan to DENR.
No, that won't come from DNR. That'll come from the agronomist, but we have to review it. I have to have a manure management plan from the county, but not from the DNR. Remember?
Nutrient management plan. It says it must be a nutrient management plan to the Department of Environmental Naturals for approval or certification. That's a.
Okay, so but we still have to have that before we give out a permit. I have to have a nutrient management plan.
So, I mean, the two differences is just strictly the waste management system plan.
Coming from the DNR itself.
So,
Other questions for Pat from the commission? Thank you, Pat. So laid out before us is a modification of the conditional use permit for Mr. Shank on the Mission Hill location. Conditions are numerous conditions. Notification meets the setbacks, needs a stormwater permit for construction from the DENR, odor and screening, facility management plan, which includes a mortality plan, screening and buffer plan, stormwater management plan, fly and rodent control plan, and a manure and nutrient management field application and notification plan. These all have to be met before a building permit is issued. If there is no other questions from the commission or comments from the commission.
I've got a comment.
Okay.
Mr. Garrity said that, no, you don't have to get up, Pat. You said about if you plugged your sewer vent, you know, you'd die. And I think, was it Dave Healy said something about if you shut the power off, you'd die. I grew up 6.5 miles north of WX Towers in Welstown Road. My grandfather came there in 1914. My dad farmed there for 47 years. 2 miles up the road, there used to be a farm.
Yep.
You remember that?
Yep.
Carrie and Reuben Knodel used to live there, and they milked cows. When their son, youngest son, Jimmy, took over, he built a really nice, modern dairy barn, bought 50 cows. They didn't have the word CAFO back then, did they?
Yep.
No, but it was nice, because I was there, pit underneath and everything. And when he talked about safety, I just had to bring it up, because one day Jimmy was milking and something malfunctioned, and he opened up the trap door, went downstairs, got his leg caught in the ladder and hung upside down for several hours. They took him to Sacred Heart Hospital, and he laid there for about a week, dying. I knew one of the nurses, and she told me years later, because we went to Sunday school together, that his lungs were burnt black from breathing that air. I just want to express that when you get in a confined space, like you said, if you plug up your air vent, and like you said, you turn off the fans, that it's dangerous. So I just want to express that safety, you know, that's one of our main concerns the commissioners need to do with the public and the people of Yankton County. Jimmy was unfortunate. He wanted his kids to farm. He told me that he wanted his kids to farm, but they never got to farm like he did.
You know, and I have total sympathy for the entire thing. That was, but it's, you know, safety is the factor. Safety is the factor, and it's a dangerous world.
Because Jimmy and I went to 4-H together, we ran around together, and it was a terrible way for him to die. But maybe he was careless, I don't know. But he was a good farmer, he was a good friend, and I just want to express that I hope nobody that has a CAFO, that happens to him. I hope their help, nothing like that happens to him, or a visitor, or a grandkid, or a son, or a daughter, because I worked for 2 pipelines all my life, and confined space will kill you real quick. So, thank you very much.
Any other comments from the commission?
I'd like to make a few comments, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely.
About 20 years ago, a hog confinement went up on a certain residence.
I don't wish to have my picture taken, Mr. Kochek.
Put that damn camera away.
Time out. He has every right to take a picture in a public setting, so whether you like it or not, he has that right, but I want him to stay in the chair. And Ray, as you approach the mic, will you pull the mic a little bit closer so everybody can hear you, please?
I'd have to concur with you, Mr. Chairman, because those people come in here and they take pictures.
Mr. Swenson, I'm the chairman of this. I'll take care of handling the meeting. Thank you.
I just concur with you.
All right, Ray, you have the floor.
And it took about 3 years before a buffering went up. A lot needs to be taken into play here about the applicant too. The order control, this is a guideline for, it's a technology in a way. It's a developing process, as Todd brought up, that is a new development into industry, and we have a land grant institute that is working in these aspects, trying to help fine tune it. The screening is something that you put up a shed, you don't know what the air, you can have an engineer, you can get a roadmap, so to speak, of what your air quality is going to be, but once that barn is put up, that's when you really find out what your air will do, and then you put your screening in regards to that. There's so many things here I want to speak on. It's a barometer, I feel, that you, and it's an evolving. I take to heart that our South Dakota Pork Producer Council is behind the technologies being used in these applications that are coming before us. These barns are built all over in this state and counties adjacent to us, and people are experiencing the revenues provided by them, and they're also coming into acceptance of change. To be able to farm in today's economy, you have to keep up. And right now, this is where the industry's at. With this side of barns, just look anywhere. This is the size of barns being developed right now. They're state-of-the-art because we have places like our Land Grant Institute doing the research to help develop them further. That's what I gotta say.
Thank you, Ray. Any other comments? All right. In front of us is the modification of the conditional use permit for Mr. Shank, Mission Hill location. Conditions are laid out before us. I'd entertain a motion at this time.
I move to approve the Carl Schenk modification on Mission Hill site number 3138.
Based on the findings and facts?
Based on the findings and facts.
For a Class E swine.
Down to, from a Class D to a Class E.
That's fine. We have a motion for modification of the conditional use permit based on the findings and facts. Do I have a second?
Second.
The motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion?
I'm kind of wondering what kind of revenue are we going to get from these CAFOs? You know, we've got roads to fix and we got culverts now, and we're short of money. What kind of revenue are we going to get for taxes out of this?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
The question has been posed to the Department of Equalization here in Yankton County, and once each barn, 2,400 head barn, will pay about $8,000 in taxes, starting out in about 5 years.
8,000 a year
per barn.
Yeah.
That's just the barn, not talking about the land around it.
My aunt pays $5,000 on her house up there on 15th Street.
Well, we're glad she's doing that.
Yeah, she does.
Mr. Swenson, you have to look at what the land, you know, that 2 acres or 3 acres that these barns are going to take up.
My aunt has 400 acres too, so.
Mr. Swenson, I was speaking.
So
the farmland itself, you know, this little section that's been cut out of it is going to pay more than that section of farmland would have. So we look at the
How much road repair will $8,000 do?
More than not having it would do.
There's our expert right there.
So in regards to this permit, do you have any other questions or discussion? Or is there any other discussion from any other commissioners? Hearing none, Patty, please take a roll call.
Ray?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Gary?
No.
Todd?
Yes. Motion passes. All right, next item on the agenda is a modification of conditional use permit for the Gayville site for Mr. Shank. Same format applies.
Okay. This would be recommended for approval by the Planning Commission. This is the modification of the Gayville barn. And so this is recommended for approval based on findings of fact of July 31st, 2018, to modify a conditional use permit from a Class D confined animal feeding operation to a Class E confined animal feeding operation. Applicant requests to decrease 2,400 head pork finisher swine barn with 960 animal units, Class C finishing barn in an agriculture district in Yankton County. Said property is legally describes the southwest quarter, excluding the east 795.52 feet, the west 1,542.3 feet, the south 315.6 feet, and excluding lots H3, H4, and H5 of Section 9, Township 93, Range 54. And the east half, the east 794.52 feet, the west 1,542.3 feet, the south 615.61 feet of the southwest quarter, Section 9, Township 93, Range 54. Hereinafter referred to as Gayville South Township, State of Yankton County, State of South Dakota. E911 address is 44820 South Dakota Highway 50, Gayville, South Dakota. Again, we have the findings in front of you. It was laid out that Mr. Shank would like to reduce his units from from a Class D to a Class E. We have the public comment during the process. Mr. Shank had agreed with the properties that were going to be, the manure application was going to be on. And as illustrated in Exhibit 4, we do have an odor model, which shows quite clearly the impact that this will have. On the site plan, you can also see, I do believe, what is the exhibit for the site plan would be Exhibit 3. So that one showed, again, a screen or tree planting that the applicant was proposed on the site plan. So it's a conditional use permit within the agriculture district. It is a Class C swine production facility. It's going to be one 2,400 head barn, 960 animal units. The barn will be 51 by 392 feet with a pit manure storage system. The trees and shrubs are provided on the applicant's site plan. On your application, you have the required conditions. You have, which is going to be Article 5, Section 507, and then 519, and then Article 19, and then 1905. You've got the application, you got the property information, you've got the notification information. The applicant meets the residential, Class 2 community, and yard setbacks. The stormwater permit will be required. The odor and screening has been addressed through our odor model and through some screening process. The facility management plan does have a mortality plan. We do have the screening buffering plan. We do have the storm management plan. We have the fly and rodent control plan, and we have the manure and nutrient management field application notification plan. The DNR application and performance standards are not required for a Class C CAFO, but we as in a county do require several of the factors that DNR requires. Any questions for me?
Any questions for Pat from the commission?
So how far is this one from the other one?
It's 330 feet.
Restate your question.
From the previously approved permit to this location where this one is, half a mile, 3/4 mile?
No, this side here.
Oh, excuse me. Okay, one's way up by Mission Hill and one's down on 448, so I got 4 miles, 5, maybe about 6, 4.5, 6 miles.
This is right off of Highway 50.
This one's down off of 448 on Highway 50, and I got it, this is off of 444, so I got 4 miles, and then I think it's about 5.5, 6 miles as a crow.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Pat? Before Pat, will you push that podium this way a little bit? Maybe that'll help with our echoing we have going on from our PA system.
Push the mic
How's that?
away from you. Push the mic away from you.
I figured the reason I moved the podium this way a little bit, it allows the speaker still time to be able to use the microphone and not have the echo. If we move the podium this way a little bit, we might avoid that echo.
Warmed up today.
Pull right there.
How about that?
You don't
Not
have to
too
talk
good.
into it.
Okay. Okay, we'll try that.
Thanks, Pat. All right, we will open up the 10 minutes for the applicant or his representative to speak at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be brief. The application for 3139 is virtually the same as it was that we just previously talked about. Once again, my client will be meeting all of the same permits and plans and requirements that was required of the ordinances when there was going to be 2 barns versus 1. So this would be reducing it down to 1. I provided you with the odor footprint, as you can see what it would have been with 2 barns versus 1 barn, which is consistent with what was previously done. And otherwise, my client is putting in 235 trees, primarily spruce and linden on about 0.62 acres of land. The trees would be planted in 2019. So otherwise, the application that this board previously approved is exactly the same, except for instead of 2, it's 1. The northern barn would be the one that they would be eliminating, and so we'd just be down to 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. At this time, we'll open up the floor for opposition. Again, it'll be 30 minutes for opposition, 30 minutes for proponents. So I open up the floor to anyone who wants to speak in opposition of this barn conditional use permit. Please approach the podium. And as the speaker approaches, the time is 5:49.
Paige Herrig, live at 44628 308th Street, Mission Hill. I just want to clear up some things, or one thing, is that the people opposing these are not opposed to agriculture, they're not opposed to farming. They all know that we need to have our farmers produce the best quality food at the lowest possible price so they can make a substantial income. What we are opposed to are irresponsible facilities. Not just because they're agriculture, we're opposed to irresponsible manufacturing facilities, irresponsible service industries. People are concerned about their health due to the emissions from the CAFOs. They're concerned about the reduction in their property values. I think if we turn the situation around, any farmer would be concerned if his neighbor started a facility or an operation of any kind that would endanger his health, his crops, or his livestock. Everyone has a right to do with their property whatever they want, but that doesn't allow them to endanger their neighbors. That's the only problem. Nobody's against farming. I'll bet half the people in here grew up on a family farm, or at least the people my age did. We're opposed to irresponsibility, and that's it. It doesn't matter if it's agriculture, manufacturing, or service. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone speak in opposition, please approach the podium. Last call. All right, we'll close the public comment in opposition at this time and open up the floor for anyone to speak in favor of the conditional use permit modification that's in front of us today. Please approach the podium. Last call. We'll close public comment in favor of the conditional use permit at this time. Mr. Stevens or Mr. Shank, if you want to do any rebuttal at this time, the floor is yours.
We waive that, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. So this closes the public comment portion at this time. I would open up the floor for questions from the commission, whether it's of Pat or discussion.
Pat, you told me one time that there's about 17 CAFOs in various stages of construction and completion in the county right about now. Isn't that correct?
There's a total of 17 in the total.
Total, yeah.
We were just doing the counting a little bit ago. Some of those are pre-zoning.
Yeah. Okay. The question I have is, you see security fences around storage buildings, around homes. Is there a security fence, like a chain link fence around these facilities?
No, not currently.
And then how?
I don't have, well, even the lagoon one, we only have a couple of lagoons. No, the lagoons are open too, so out in the county. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, the ones that we have. We haven't built a, we've done 2 lagoons since I've been on board. In 2009, we've done 2, and both under CAFO regulations there. Both of them are open too.
And when the doors, I'm sure they're locked. Nobody can get in.
Well, there's public responsibility, you know. I mean, as far as public entry, that type of thing,
You mean I could walk up to one and walk in?
I don't think so. Not in a, not a pig barn. Well, let's go back. I can give you two of them that I know. I know I can't walk into Ray's, but let's go up to the colonies. They've got two of them up there. I can't get past their gate there. They're biosecured.
Yeah.
So it isn't a big chain link fence, but I would literally have to violate and trespass to go in there. Now, let's go up to, there's a one further up north there. Ray, help me with his name there. The older gentleman. He was a nurse for a long time. He's got 3 barns up there.
I can't think of his name.
I guess the other question is
But anyway, he has a big sign out in the front of his that says, you know, this is my animal production, biosecurity, no trespassing. So you'd be violating that. It's
like
obvious.
The guy that ran the stop sign this morning in front of me.
Yeah.
Anyway, do they have cameras, requirements for cameras that they monitor?
No, but I don't, no, we do not at current time.
Just curious.
Sure.
But I'm concerned about safety, you know.
And that's, okay, any other questions?
Any other questions for Pat in regards to the modification of this conditional use permit from the commission?
Okay, just remember you have your exhibits. You have everything in front of you that you're making your decision on. And if there's anything that you need questions on with those, just let me know. But I believe that's very accurate too with their various exhibits.
Any discussion amongst the commission in regards to the modification of the conditional use permit in front of us today? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion in regards to the modification of this conditional use permit.
Mr. Chairman, based on facts and findings, I move for approval of the modification of the site 3139 for Carl Schenk.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
I will second that, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Patty, please take roll call.
Ray?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Harry?
No.
Todd?
Yes. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is a conditional use permit for the Crown Castle USA table location. Pat?
Okay, so this is relatively simple. It's very administrative. We went through the process on the Planning Commission. They recommended it for approval. We don't do public notices, but all we're doing is swapping out antennas. So this is the Tabor, and with this one, this applicant is Crown Castle that is requesting an antenna change based on Article 25. And the legal description is on the northwest quarter of Section 32, Township 94, Range 57. Hereinafter referred to as Ziska North Township of the County of Yankton, State of South Dakota. This is an ag center or ag district, and the antenna currently exists, and so we're swapping the antennas. Looks like, what are we going to do? 6 antennas, in which 3 of them are RHSs, and 3 of them are RHSs, and a DC cable. So a lot of that is Greek, but it's all right here if you want to understand Greek. It's all right there. We can analyze it. And it is good. The guys I've asked them a couple of questions about making sure that this makes sense. And so any questions you may have, you may ask me, and I also know the engineer. But everything's all set up. The biggest thing we watch out for these things is that they're communicating with the landowner and that they're not overloading the towers. And it's not necessarily a responsibility to watch the tower overload, but we can watch it with their schismatics, and they're supposed to do that. That's their job, but we just have that as part of a review. So this is for the Tabor Tower.
Pat, when I was out in DC on our visit, one of the things that came up was cell phone towers. And as I read in the packet here in front of us from Crown Castle on page 8, they refer to the Middle Class Tax Relief and Job Creation Act of 2012. Essentially mandates state and local governments may not deny or shall approve any eligible facilities. So pretty much the federal government Have they taken away some of our powers?
They're taking away they're allowing us to at least do this review, but we really have to have a really good reason to deny it. That's why we used to advertise this just like a regular CUP, but now they took away that authority and said, no, you streamline it, we want you done with it within 60 days. And we don't do the public notification process. I do make sure it's in the paper, but I don't do the letters to the owners around there. If it's a new tower, yes. You'll be amazed how much hard work we do, but when we're swapping out antennas, I guess so many counties had drug on the process so long that the federal government got involved and said, we want you to streamline your process. Our ordinance allowed us to do that, but they still had to come back in and do the application process, and we get the fees completed, and they're okay with that, but they would like to work with us when we do streamline our own ordinance. They'd like to talk to us too.
Thank you, Pat. Questions for Pat in regards to the Crown Castle tower swap on cell phone tower near Tabor? Any public comment for or against the conditional use permit reference the Crown Castle USA Tabor location? Please approach the podium if you want to speak in favor or against. Last call. Let's close the public comment in regards to the Crown Castle USA Tabor conditional use permit. Any questions or comments from the commission in regards to this conditional use permit?
No, I can just say from the Planning and Zoning Commission, it doesn't change the footprint. There were nobody speaking for or against it at the meeting, and this is strictly swapping out antennas. So there was unanimous approval at the Planning and Zoning.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? If there are none, I will entertain a motion in regards to the Crown Castle USA Tabor location conditional use permit.
Make a motion to approve the conditional use permit for Crown Castle USA Tabor location.
We have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is a conditional use permit for Crown Castle USA Utica location.
Okay, this is the location off of 439th Avenue up there around Utica. The legal description is lots 2, 3, and 4 in the southwest quarter, the northwest quarter of Section 13, Township 95, Range 56. Based on Article 25, we have on Section 2506, we have a requirement to review and then do a CUP with their antenna modifications. And for this tower, they just have 4 different antennas that they're swapping out. And in visiting with them, these, and just make clear the last one too, these are all swap outs. There's not an extra one staying. These are swaps. It's the technology, it's where it's moving, obviously, and so they're ready to roll on it. So this was had no comments, positive or negative, and the Planning Commission unanimously approved it.
Any questions for Pat in regards to the Crown Castle USA Utica conditional use permit? Any public comment in regards to this conditional use permit in front of us today? Please approach the podium. Last call. Hearing and seeing none, I close public comment at this time. Any other discussion from the commission? If not, I entertain a motion on the conditional use permit for Crown Castle USA Utica location.
I move approval of the Crown Castle USA Utica conditional use permit.
Based on the findings of facts?
Based on the findings of facts.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to go into regular session.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Now I need a motion to go into drainage board.
Move we go into drainage board.
Motion to go in the drainage board. Is there a second?
Second.
Gary? Yeah, motion, we got a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are in drainage board.
Okay, in front of you is a application from Nelson Family Partnership. This was recommended for approval by the Drainage Commission based on findings of fact of July 24th. And the property is legally described as the south half of the northwest quarter of Section 32, Township 94, Range 55, and Jim Lane, Tract Number 1 of the northeast quarter of the northwest quarter of Section 32, Township 94, Range 55, and the south half of the northwest quarter of Section 32, 94, Range 55, and the north 229 feet of the south half of the northwest quarter of the southwest quarter, and the south 266 feet of the north half of the northwest quarter of the southwest quarter of Section 32, Township 94, Range 55, and the north half of the southwest quarter, excluding the north 229 feet of the southwest of the northwest quarter of the southwest quarter, and excluding the south 266 feet of the north half of the northwest quarter of the southwest quarter, and the southwest quarter of the southwest quarter, excluding lots A and B, theme and addition, Section 32, Township 94, Range 55. Hereinafter referred to as Mission Hill North Township, County of Yankton, State of South Dakota. It was unanimously approved by the Drainage Commission. Like I say, it's a huge legal description, but it's some property right up there above the, and just east of the airport area. So there's a lot of retail lots or residential lots pulled out. There was some interesting discussion. It's a partnership. The easement is coming from Jim Lane, and he has his kind of a watershed set up there where he has some retention ponds, and he has a good easement laid out there where some of it will be surface, and then it will go through a drain pipe or a tile pipe to the blue line. We assured that the facility or that the system was capable of carrying everything. And we also discussed in detail, there's pipelines going through this property. And we really didn't need to point it out to Mr. Nelson, but we did put it in findings that he needs to be careful around those pipelines. And the reason why some of the drainage is going on is the pipelines have altered how that ground is draining. So he's trying to do some modifications in there with this project. Otherwise, everything met our requirements, and I see, is he still here? Yep, so if he has any more input on that, he's here. Any questions for me?
All drains into a blue line?
It'll all drain into a blue line, correct. And the blue line is on Jim Lane's property, and he has the proper easements for that access from Mr. Lane. And that's signed and documented here.
Questions for Pat in regards to this drainage permit from the commission? There are none. This time we'll allow up to 10 minutes for the applicant if he still wants to speak on this permit. You don't require it, but if you'd like to, you're more than welcome to speak.
I'm Darrell Nelson, and basically Pat explained it quite well. If you got any questions for me, go ahead. But Jim basically wants the water in his stock dams, and we've provided for any overflow to go to the blue line. So
your land has not been annexed by the city?
No, we are in, I believe it's in the ETJ, but
yes.
it's not in the city. City is immediately across the road with the airport property. But there's existing tile out there. We basically tested this system for 8 years. We're just adding to it, so.
Any other questions for Mr. Nelson?
Dismissed.
Thank you, Darrell.
Okay. Thanks.
We'll now open up the floor for any public comments for or against the drainage permit for the Nelson Family Partnership. If you would like to speak in favor or against, please approach the podium at this time.
You have to be signed up.
Not for this, that matter.
Mr. Chairman, Frank Kochek, 29966 423rd Avenue, Scotland, South Dakota. Rise in support of this permit. Have known the Nelson family for years. They are true family farmers, and their word is their deed. And if they say something, they do it, and I strongly support their proposal.
Thank you. Any other public comments for or against? Last call. Close the public comment at this time in regards to the drainage permit for the Nelson Family Partnership. Any questions of the commission at this time? If there are none, I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the Nelson Family Partnership drainage application.
We have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion is second, any discussion?
This was a fun, I enjoyed going through the process on this one here with the aspect of the adjacent landowner having the dams in there for wildlife habitat, then the overflow going into a blue line. A pretty neat little project going on there.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion to go into regular session?
Don't we have to do the easement? There's an easement here.
The easement's part of the permit, isn't it?
It's part of the permit. Okay, well, it's this separate item on the agenda.
No, it's not a separate item on the agenda.
Sorry.
Can I get a motion to go into regular session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is going to be the executive session, but before we go to that, let's address the two items that were addressed for additional information. First one is, since we have Clark Engineering here and Brian here, I'd like to talk a little bit about the new information we got on the Fleegs Bridge and load limits. So, Brian, I'll give you the podium.
Well, like Todd mentioned, we did have some new posting information. We have Clark Engineering on hand here, Adam Polly. He's the bridge inspector, so I guess I'll turn it over.
Before we get to that, just kind of give everybody kind of a rundown of what the bridge was posted at, what the bridge is now posted at, and a little bit of what transpired last week.
Okay, the bridge was posted at 40 and 24.
So explain that to someone who doesn't know what 40 and 24 is.
Combination was 40, so a combination would be a truck and a trailer.
40 tons, right?
40 tons. And a single unit would be just a single truck with just 24 tons.
Is that per axle or is that total load?
That's total weight. And currently, the postings recommended after the bridge inspection last year was 19 and 25. And lack of communication and on both parts, both Adam and I have talked about that. These bridge inspections were performed last year, and irregardless, now they are mandated by the Federal Highway Administration, and the state DOT sent me an email around July 30th. I had asked Adam at that time when we could look at this to review it, and he stated to me that they're going to be doing this bridge inspection, and I believe that was this week. Right. So possible changes could come with that again, but there again, I don't know how much information Adam has currently, but is there any questions you guys have for me?
What did you mean by 19 and 25?
19 for tons per single unit, which was previously 24, and a combination of 25.
So we've gone down for a combination from 40 tons total vehicle for a combination.
For a combination.
To 25 tons for combination for total vehicle.
Correct.
Down from a single was what again?
24.
Down to 19.
Down to 19.
Tons.
Tons.
Okay.
Brian, if two trucks meet, is there wide enough for them to cross at the same time, be on the bridge at the same time?
Yes.
So then you get double the weight?
Yep.
Brian, can I ask a question here? Didn't your department do some blasting, some restoration on that bridge of recent to help for your inspection process?
We did do some of that, minor maintenance items. You know, we didn't do major work like we're performing with these big grants, but we had some spall holes that there was some rebar exposed, and we shot blasted it and grouted it. And then we
Was
also
that prior to the inspection?
believe so.
Which inspection, the 17 or the 18?
Remember when you guys did that, was that 16?
I'd have to look.
Mr. Chairman, I got a question. Were you in Yankton County when they had the one truck limit on the Fleet Bridge? Do you remember that?
Depends what you're referring to.
Well, it's been a long time ago. It used to be a one truck limit. You remember that, Brad? That's probably before your time too.
I believe I remember.
There was a sign up there, one truck on the bridge.
According to the way that these bridges are rated and posted, it's for 2 trucks. Correct?
I'll defer that question to the engineer and to answer that question.
Yeah, so the load ratings sorry.
I know who you are, but make sure everybody else knows who you are.
Adam Polly, Clark Engineering.
Thank you.
The load ratings that we do take into account the possibility of 2 trucks being on the bridge at one time.
So the bridge could handle 2 vehicles, combination, 25-ton each at the same time on the bridge.
Right.
One going west, one going east.
Correct.
All right, does that answer your question?
Thank you. Yeah, and if it collapses, they're both going to get to pay for it.
Not if they're legal.
Yeah, that's right.
Not if they're legal. So, first of all, is the bridge safe?
The bridge is safe for the posted load, yes.
Thank you. Explain to us what transpired and why it transpired. Because I think all the commissions found out about this in a rather late manner. This is a vital artery. We have many businesses that go across that bridge, whether it's a farmer, whether it's a business in town having to get to a farm or back from a farm. Or if it's not, maybe it's a dirt mover. But this is a vital artery. We only have 2 bridges that cross the Jim River on the east of 81, and let me restate that we have 3 if you take out Highway 50, but 2 that are the counties. So it's a vital artery. Something that we have been talking about this bridge for long before I was sitting in this chair. So talk to us about a little bit what the process led up to this point.
So last year, if you remember, was Clark Engineering's first time inspecting bridges in Yankton County. We only had 2 that we had to inspect last year. Usually, we're always required to meet with the highway superintendent to discuss our findings, and usually we have given the commissioners an option to have us present our findings. With it only being 2 bridges, we did not do that. Like Brian had stated, somewhere along the line there was a miscommunication at what the new posting was going to be. And we did our initial inspection on this bridge last week or the week before, and when I was out there, the correct weight limit sign was up. So I did not know that the new weight limit sign was not up until just recently. That's the miscommunication part. If you would like me to explain the technical part, kind of.
I'll let the commission maybe ask some more questions in regards before we get technical.
I guess I'd like to know, maybe this is too technical. I'd like to know what it was that specifically, what did you see that caused the weight limit to be reduced?
So it wasn't necessarily something that we saw. It was a different methodology that we used to do the load rating on the bridge. We are using the preferred methodology from the federal highway to do the load rating on this bridge. The previous load rating was still acceptable by the federal highway, but we are using the preferred. Another thing that I will say is our company has 3 levels of load rating. One is just a simple spreadsheet that we use. It's fairly easy for us to do, and that is where this load rating came from. The next level is to use software, which we are doing this year for this bridge and all Jim River bridges in Yankton County. And then if there's still something that, you know, the highway superintendent doesn't like about that load rating, we can go one step further and do a finite element load rating on the bridge, which takes a week. So right now we are in the process of doing that second level using the software. Before I came to the meeting, we were on the bridge with the snooper truck, which gets us closer to the girders than just standing on the ground. There is minor section loss of the girders, nothing to be concerned of. But this is stuff that we see. Our load rater back in the office has her preliminary load rating for the bridge done, and she is waiting to hear back for my field observations to finish the load rating at that second level.
So what does that mean in regards to load rating on the new inspection? Could we see it go down further, go up?
You could see it's more possible that it will go up a little bit. Each level you get up, it's more accurate. And we are also waiting for a load rating memo from the DOT from this year. I mean, load ratings, they're always changing, trucks get bigger, and we're trying to adapt as fast as we can. My inclination is that it will go up a little bit. I don't know if it'll go back up to what it was.
What will it take to get it back to what it was?
Strengthening the girders. There's nothing wrong structurally with the bridge. It was built in 1951 with different, you know, they had different trucks back then. We are load rating for the trucks that we are seeing now, which the bridge was not designed for. So when I
explain those trucks, I think that's where maybe there's a little confusion, because it wasn't, but was it last year or 2 years ago we had to change all of our signs to adapt for these trucks?
Yeah, if you remember, the old weight limit signs had a silhouette of 3 different trucks on it. Those are the 3 South Dakota legal trucks. Well, now we have what's called 4 specialized hauling vehicles that we have to load rate for, which are single unit trucks with many axles. They carry more load in a very tight space.
Who changes those rules? Is that a federal? Is it a state? Is it a county? Who changes those signage rules?
That comes from from our state DOT with guidance from the federal highway.
Did you physically inspect the bridges yourself?
Yes.
And I know you're an engineer. I think everybody knows. But are there other engineers for a backup that check your work or come back later, or do they go with you? Or are you the only one that does the inspection?
We have 2 people on site doing the inspection at once.
And they're both engineers?
No.
They're not?
Just the one.
You're the only engineer?
Yes.
So they're not qualified like you were?
No. Correct.
And then,
but in that sense, I do not do the load ratings. We have a PhD on staff that does load ratings for bridge inspections.
and he's there present?
And she is not on the bridge, no. But she gets feedback from us. We take a bunch of pictures. That's what she's waiting on.
So you're the main guy?
Yes.
So you collect the data.
Right.
All the data, and send it off to your PhD, and they do the evaluations?
Correct.
So with the standards changing, what if we said we want to go back to 40 tons combination with a bridge? And you talked about you have 2 different methodologies. You had a preferred, and there's another one that was done before. If we posted it back to 40 tons per combination, what's the pros and cons? Is there any?
Well, the pro is obviously we get heavier trucks that can cross the bridge. The con is reducing the life of the bridge. We don't post bridges necessarily for safety. We post them also to prolong the life of the bridge. If you think of a paper clip, you keep bending it a little bit, it's fine. You bend it enough times a lot, it's gonna break. So that one load that goes over that's overweight is not necessarily gonna collapse the bridge, but if you get 20 of those, it could damage the bridge.
So you guys are doing 3 bridges for us right now with the bridge improvement grant.
Mm-hmm.
How does this affect if we want to apply for a bridge improvement grant on Fleet's Bridge?
How does the weight limit?
How does posting it to your specification, does that help us with the bridge grant? Or if we don't post it, does it not help us?
So for the bridge grant, there's a big score is what it's called. It takes into account a whole bunch of factors, which includes detour, average daily traffic, and one of them being the posted weight on the bridge. The lower the posting, the more points you get for that bridge. So in essence, a lower posting will help you in the big process, the bridge improvement grant process.
And this has been posted to federal highway standards?
The preferred
highway
yes.
standards.
Is there any way that you can look inside with x-rays or all the modern technology we got now? Can you look inside this steel? Can you look inside the concrete with some kind of equipment to see what it's like?
The only thing I've heard of is x-raying welds. That really is not the issue on this bridge. It's just that the girders are, if we take the girders in perfect condition, they're just too small for the loads that we are seeing today. There's not much that is structurally wrong with this bridge.
So it's the modern loads. It's the increased modern loads is what's making the change to this.
Yes, the bridge is 60-some years old.
You said it was built in 51?
1951.
Are you sure? I remember it being built.
Yes.
I guess we know the bridges, we know the history of this bridge. It's been talked about at length. Other questions for?
So, if I could make one more comment.
Yeah, absolutely.
The way I see it, the county has 2 options. We could talk about doing a total replacement on the bridge, which is, as we know, a lot of money.
15 million, I suppose?
I don't know about that much, but
that was the old number anyway.
Is it? Or we could think about strengthening the girders to get it back up to legal loads. I'm not sure how much that costs. Obviously, it's going to be less than a total replacement, but the bridge is also narrow, very narrow. I mean, even if you're driving a pickup truck and you meet a semi, you feel pretty scrunched. So that's stuff that me and Brian will be talking about. That's how we proceed, but those are kind of our 2 options.
Would strengthening the girders be something that a big would be able to take in?
Yes, you can apply for a grant, for a rehabilitation grant on that bridge.
And strengthening the girders would be a rehabilitation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as you remember, we're doing a preservation grant on the 3. Those are posted currently too, and the posting will not change because all we're doing is preserving the bridge. We're not doing anything with the girders except for painting them.
Other questions from the commission?
Just a ballpark figure, how many bridges have you inspected in your career?
Close to 1,000.
This reduction in the tonnage is off of inspection of 17.
Correct.
And you said you inspected 2 bridges. Which was the other one?
It was up on 301,
Johnson
just
Bridge.
south of Marindale.
Not the Johnson Bridge Road?
Not the Johnson.
It was a smaller single span bridge.
And you stated with the work being done on Johnson Bridge, if you went and inspected that, the tonnage would not be decreased on that bridge.
The Johnson Bridge.
He's the one we're just up on 303 that we're doing the big grant.
The work that we are doing right now,
yes,
will not increase the weight limit. Correct.
Will not if that after you're done, when will that be up for inspection again?
We just inspected that bridge today with the snooper truck, the Johnson Bridge.
Yes.
We just inspected it.
And that one's tonnage is okay. That one will not be getting reduced.
I cannot guarantee that, no. We still have
That has probably not been calculated yet?
That has not been.
Other questions for Clark or for Brian?
Could you get an estimate on the things that have to be beefed up?
The girders?
The girders.
We're gonna be looking at, and adding it to the 5-year plan to apply for a big grant for PE money to help give us that estimate.
So the PE grant is for a replacement
Bridge.
of the bridge. We have not, we cannot look into an estimate for strengthening the bridge until we have the load ratings completed.
So just so everybody knows, the process with the bid grant, to get a bid grant, first of all, the project's gotta be in the 5-year plan. The deadline for the bid grant is when? For say 2019?
To apply for a replacement or what kind?
Any type of bid grant for 2019. What's the deadline?
January 2nd.
Of?
2019.
But that's not for the 2019 budget. So if we wanted to do a repair job or a replacement or a brand new bridge in 2019 on Fleeg's Bridge, what was a deadline or what is a deadline to submit the bid grant to? That being said, that it already is on the 5-year plan. So the deadline for the bid grant is what date of the year? Isn't it July?
For the PE grants, which is the preliminary engineering to do the survey and hydraulics to size the bridge, was August 1st.
So that was August 1st, and it had to have been on last year's 5-year plan.
Correct.
So we have 5-year plan meetings coming up next month. This bridge is on the 5-year plan this year, gets approved, which is the 5-year plan is actually for 2019 and beyond. Next year, we can put in an application for a bridge grant for the Fleeg's Bridge. Doesn't mean we're gonna get it, but we can put in an application for it, which would be, the project would be in 2020. Am I correct?
Yes, the PE portion.
The PE portion, which is just the preliminary engineering.
Yes.
Make sure we gotta tell people what the PE is. Everything's gonna go to physical education or
Yes,
something. So.
preliminary engineering.
Okay. All right.
So you're looking 2 years down the road, minimum, before that weight would be increased back to 40 ton.
Correct.
Now, that's with the PE grant. Now, if we wanted to do something to strengthen the girders, could that be done sooner?
If you wanted to strengthen the girders, that deadline for that rehabilitation grant is January 2nd of 2019.
For 2020 budget?
For 2020.
Or 2020 projects?
I think they award them in April. Yes, it'd be constructed in 2020. We could do design work.
Or we do it out of our own pocket in 2019?
You could, yes.
Without a grant, which we have no idea what that cost is right now.
Correct.
So I'm gonna ask a silly question, how many girders are under there?
4.
Have you seen a bridge like this have girders revamped?
Personally, I have not. Usually they're, like this one, they're narrow, and with the farm equipment getting wider and wider, it's usually preferred to do a total replacement.
Do you know how many bridges have failed in the state of South Dakota in the last, say, 10 years?
I do not. I know of one that I have inspected up by Flanger that recently failed last year. Same type of bridge, 4 girders, but it was a lot further down the line.
What do you mean by further down the line?
For structurally deficient. The girders were.
So in other words, to avoid the bridges from failing, that's why we do these inspections. And some bridges are on annual inspections, some bridges are on biannual inspections?
Correct.
Based on the state of them.
And
so that's why we're doing these inspections.
And the Fleeg's Bridge is on an annual inspection. Every year we look at it.
Anything else for Adam or Brian? I know I have a question in the audience, maybe two. If you have a question, just please approach so everybody can hear. I just do need to state your name.
Sure. Yep, Joe Healy, 609 Douglas. All right, so just so I'm clear, is there any possible way of going to a single truck again, and it's meeting that, you know, we have harvest coming down the road? And then is there any possible way of posting, my understanding is like a 5-axle truck would be acceptable on this bridge? It's just your multiple, you know, your concentrated loads that are the issue?
I do not know the answer to that question. That's something we can ask the load rater. If we could restrict the bridge back to one truck.
Do a single truck flow.
I know.
Or do a 5-axle, 2 5-axles, and keep the you know, multi-axles off with tag wheels.
So the one thing that we've struggled with in the past, if we try to restrict the bridge to one truck at a time, I mean, how do we enforce that? How do we ensure that that is going to happen? It's just like a speed limit. You put a sign out there and you hope people will obey it, and the only way we enforce that is with patrol officers. That is the trouble. We've had bridges where we looked into reducing the speed across the bridge to lessen the impact loading on the bridge. The same heartburn we get is, how do you enforce that? How do we know that they're following that speed limit?
Is the road wide enough for 2 big trucks to meet?
Barely. I mean,
And you'd have to slow down really slow for that to happen, would not?
So, okay. Any other public comment, question? I'll open up for just 1 or 2 more.
Jan Odens, 1209 West 17th in Yankton here. Kind of on the same train of thought there with the 1 truck limit, is there such a thing as slowing the speed limit down to lessen that impact?
Yeah.
And using 1 truck?
Yeah. I think right now the bridge is posted at 40
miles an hour.
I don't know how much lower we can get, and there really isn't it's not too rough of a ride over the bridge, so there's not much impact loading going on. I don't know if reducing the speed limit will help us.
Wasn't it what Dave Volz, the state guy, said that the slower you go, the worse it is? Because it's just like compacting something, the slower you go, the more compact. So actually he said something like, the faster you go across, the less damage.
Yeah, depending on how smooth the ride is.
That's what he had said. The slower you go, the more damage, so.
I would challenge looking into 5-axle with harvest coming up.
I think that's the task we're going to put in front of you today. You know, this is, the good news is this is August. We don't have any corn or beans or anything going out yet, but that's not very far away. We have a meeting in 2 weeks. I'd like to have some sort of other options in front of us. You know, Mr. Healy had a good point. Research that, to look at other options. We have to, first of all, we got to stay in compliance with federal highway standards. We don't have money to pay for the full bridge. We don't have money to pay for a rehab, I don't think. I'm guessing those numbers are still. Somebody said preliminary engineering to do the rebuild would be well over $1 million, probably a couple $1 million on the preliminary engineering is what I've been told by the state. Don't know if that's accurate because it's just an estimate. But I think if we're going to challenge you to come back with some options on that bridge, and you'll get some more information once that data is crunched in regards to the 2018 inspection. But I would like to have you come back to this commission in 2 weeks, and no later than the 21st of September, to have some sort of recommendations for us to help us find a solution that we can hopefully live with. So
sounds good.
I know it's not an easy task.
Right.
And this is a bridge we've known about that's been an issue for a while. We've tried to put pieces in place to prolong its life, but as you just said, the modern day loads are getting heavier and heavier.
And one closing comment here. We do not take posting bridges lightly at all. I mean, I don't like having these meetings as much as you guys do. We're heavy agriculture everywhere, and I know what the local farmers are going through. So we are trying to be safe about it.
Because we'll find an alternative to get commerce from the east side of 81. If we can't do it over the bridge, we're gonna have to build up a road to handle that weight to go over 50 and then up, which is not gonna be preferred either, but we have to find a solution.
One more time. The previous inspections were done on a different calculation than you use? Is that what I heard you state?
Yes.
Because when you go from a 40 down to 25, that 15 ton, that's a pretty stinking strong adjustment that was made off of a calculation.
But you did mention it as preferred method.
It's the preferred method from
It's
the
a higher standard.
And one question I thought I was going to get is why did this single unit only go down to 6 tons? They're smaller, they're shorter. I mean, the bigger trucks, how can I explain this? I shouldn't have brought that up, but.
I would counter you. All we gotta do is throw about 6 more axles underneath our semis and we're gonna be okay then.
But that's why we have these load ratings now, where we didn't used to.
And this isn't per axle, this is total load.
This is total growth.
Total load.
So it doesn't matter if you spread it out over axles. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, it does, but
You're comparing a 3-axle truck to a 7 or 8 axle single unit.
We're not talking about a road, we're talking about a bridge, so it's.
I know, I'm talking about trucks that are using these bridges or why these postings are like they are, correct?
Correct.
Just got one question. You said that if we posted it to 1 truck limit, that how would you enforce that? Well, if 50% of the trucks obeyed, we'd save half the trucks going over there. So I'm trying not to be cynical, but it would help, wouldn't it? If we posted it 1 truck, somebody would have to obey. I don't think everybody's a crook.
Well, I'm not saying that either, but
Yeah.
I don't think of myself as a crook either, but
Yeah,
I
think
speed.
there's a lot of honest people, but there's some that want to overload. But if we did load it to 1, then we would save our bridge.
So.
And I'm not, I mean, that may be an option. I mean, I'd have to talk to the load rater. It may be an option.
So you have a task in front of you for the next meeting, and be in communication with Brian and with the commission, and absolutely no later than the 2nd meeting in September. I mean, that's pushing it. What I know between now and the next meeting, we have a holiday in there. But I really want to push this. I would love to see it on the September 4th agenda.
You got it.
So, all right? All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. I can make this very quick.
Okay. Mass casualty drill, go ahead.
Yeah, last night there was a training performed by EMS, and the city was there. A lot of the small towns, fire stations, 63 people were there, and they talked about, how we would respond to a mass casualty drill in the county. And that was from, the coroner's perspective, the folks from Sioux Falls that would bring down the refrigerator trucks for extra bodies and things like that. And there's going to be an actual exercise on the 22nd of September. And I know they would like, I signed up, I'm going to be there. Everybody received the email about showing up, and there'll be some staging done in the Chamber of Commerce parking lot. There'll be something, I believe, at Fire Station 2, the EOC, and I'm not sure if I've forgotten another location, but it's I guess it's a matter of, not matter of when or if, but rather when we may be faced with one of those things, whether it be a tornado, it could be an explosion, it could be any other things that happen. And this is a real eye-opening experience, and between law enforcement and healthcare and emergency management, it's going to be a big thing. So I would encourage other fellow commissioners to take advantage of it.
Thank you. At this time, I'd take a motion to go into executive session for personnel matters.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I oppose.
Motion carries. We're in executive session. Can I get a motion to go back into executive, or into regular session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. No action was taken in executive session. All right. Last item on the agenda is any public comments. We have 2 individuals have signed up. Remember that each speaker will have 3 minutes. There is no debate, discussion from the commission. It's public comment from the public at this point in time. First one on the agenda, or on the sign-in sheet, is Frank Klochek from Scotland, South Dakota.
It's not supposed to be something that's on the agenda tonight, correct?
It's public comment.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, members of the County Commission, just to let you know, we are doing independent, non-biased hydrogen sulfide, ammonia, and other toxic gas monitoring in 4 counties, including Yankton County. And we're going to continue to do that to see how toxic it is. Public health and safety always trumps CAFOs and rights of big corporations and factory farms. Property rights to live in your own home and breathe clean air and quality of life trumps CAFO's rights and big corporation family farms. Today and yesterday, Iowa State Senator Dave Johnson, 20-year legislator, told us that in 2016 there were 5,000 undocumented CAFOs they found extra, and over 10,000 CAFOs are currently now there in the state of Iowa. And I will present this to the commission from Dave. It says about the health effects and the impact of water quality and public health in Iowa. And they say, well, this is not Iowa, but we're heading down that direction. The explosion of CAFOs, and these folks that did the study is Osterberg, and they got more degrees and things than Commissioner Swenson. They got more training in different things in nonpartisan Iowa policy project. And here's what they said. The current industrial model is not sustainable, given its high input costs, rising energy demands, fresh water needs, climate change, and adverse environmental and public health impacts. The very real pushback from rural residents and communities will, however, be sustained. We need biofilters and eliminate curtain barns and reduce tunnel barns. They're ineffective in reducing the odor and the harmful particulates. And it's study after study. And if the commission doesn't take it, if the state doesn't take the charge, then we'll have to take it into our own hands and get it done. It works at SDSU, those biofilters. I would like to see the home football game or the beef bowl when if the pigs aren't out of that barn and the pig pens aren't cleaned out, the pits aren't cleaned out, what that's going to smell like. That is a totally pit or fan-related, non-curtain, non-tunnel barn. And it works if those biofilters are in place. And you all saw the comments that the good president said, and I was in that building last year, and he's 100% right, and so is the swine, the manager, the dean of agriculture that gave us the tour. The curtain barns, in my opinion, are dangerous and a public health risk for the safety and health of the citizens of South Dakota. And I ask them, and that you guys step up to the plate and ban them. If you're not doing justice to your citizens of this county. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next person on the sign-up sheet is Louis Johnson. You'll have 3 minutes, Mr. Johnson.
I will try to even make it shorter than that, Mr. Chairman. Several things, a bridge, yeah, we don't have money to fix it, but if we could make it so we could take a load across it, and I don't mean a half a load. I don't care if it's narrow, it's been narrow since 1951, and I don't believe there's been a lot of head-on collisions on it. But if you could beef it up so we could use it as a viable artery, I think it would be tremendous. If we could save a buck or two doing it, that's even better yet. The other thing, as far as the CAFOs, the confinement buildings, they've been around a long time. They've been improved tremendously in 40 years. I was told, don't have any idea if it's true or not, that the population of the world increases by over 100 people every minute. They're going to want to eat. And there's not enough open ground to raise everything out in the open. And the biofilters, from what I've heard, they're not as effective as first thought, and I was going to put them in my building, but I spent so much on lawyers, I had to take them out. We had to cut costs where we had to. And I just don't understand why it is all these people that don't have them are such experts. And everybody I talk to that has them, they don't see the problems. And I've even talked to their neighbors, and they don't see the problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis. All right, that's the last individual listed on the sign-in sheet.
I didn't realize I was supposed to sign in, but is that on?
The instructions have been made multiple times. I'll give you 3 minutes, but we've given multiple instructions since July 1st on how to sign up for this.
Looking up on that, I apologize.
Special.
Once again, my name's Dan Dolish, and I've been asked to apply for a CUP for my 24-foot swimming pool that I have in my yard and have had in my yard since 2005. Prior to that, I had an 18-foot pool since 2002 that I moved several times before finding this is where we decided to put a pool. And I guess what I'm asking is, since I've had a pool since 2002, if I could be grandfathered in to not applying for a CUP since I've already had a pool since 2002. I guess that's just the comment I wanted to make. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. All right, that ends the public comment list of individuals who have signed up. Items for next meeting agenda. Is there anything at this point in time? We already talked briefly about a few things. Patty, you have those? Just
Your 2 weeks with the fleets.
Yep.
That would be a prime one.
Yep.
You want the insurance with Blue Cross for the life insurance? You want that next meeting or the next meeting?
Let's do it on the 21st. I think the first meeting of the month is usually pretty full.
And that's all I have that you mentioned. Oh, the section line.
The section line, we're going to try to get that by the 4th, but it's tabled until the 21st at the latest. Any other items for the agenda from the commission at this point in time? All right, hearing none, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A motion, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye.